So the Prime Minister has said to the President, to get himself influence, I'll be with you. We had started planning, as the Americans knew, to be with them in a military sense if it came to conflict in a very big way, probably with a land contribution, though that wasn't confirmed until the end of the year. So we'd given ourselves some leverage. We were saying, this is a point that's really important to us, but we were saying more than that. This is a point that's really important to making this policy a success. Despite all of that, we failed.
Well, it didn't appear that we were going to fail, let me say, and this is by definition an investigation into things that have happened. At the time, it looked as though there was some chance of us succeeding. I mean, the two were never going to, the sequence of events was never going to be locked together. They were going to be on slightly different tracks, because we're dealing with, yes, adjacent countries, but different circumstances. But say with the publication of the roadmap, I mean, I thought that was an important advance, and there were other important advances. But overall, Sir Roderick, of course you're right to say at the time, I don't recall a moment where I just thought, oh, this is just hopeless. I didn't think that at all.
I mean, one of the strategic objectives that we and the Americans shared was that dealing with Saddam Hussein should be a step to improve stability and security in the Middle East, a step towards an improvement across the region. And one of your arguments was that prior progress on the Arab-Israel track was vital so that people in the region didn't continue to accuse us of double standards. So did not the failure to achieve that prior progress gravely undermine one of the strategic objectives of the coalition?
Well, it would have been much better if we had been able to achieve that earlier. I mean, we didn't achieve it at all in the event. I don't think it gravely undermined the whole approach. And as I said in the session before the break, one of the interesting things about the aftermath is that the difficulties across the Middle East region as a whole, which we'd anticipated, did not come to pass. And I think that whatever else may be said about what happened, and it's quite a lot, the region is better off without the Iraqi regime.
Okay, thank you. I think we should move on.
Thanks. I want to pick up on the process we were discussing before the break on your efforts post-Crawford with the Prime Minister to get a fresh mandate from the Security Council. I just want to start by quoting something from your memorandum. This is paragraph 24, where you say, in addition to serious questions about the legality of any UK involvement in military action, without a refreshed UNSC mandate, United Nations Security Council mandate, there was no prospect of agreement within the British Cabinet or the Parliamentary Party without one. And just to be clear, what you're saying there, whatever the Prime Minister may have felt about the value of regime change, being with the Americans or sticking shoulder to shoulder with President Bush, if there had not been progress on the United Nations, you don't think the Cabinet would have been able to support him and no action subsequently would have taken place?
Yes, Sir Lawrence, that's what I'm saying. That was my judgment, and it was what I told the Prime Minister on many occasions. And he understood that fully. And I know that he made that clear to President Bush as well.
He made it clear to President Bush that if there was no UN Security Council mandate, further resolution, that he would not be able to bring his cabinet with him. So this made the discussions through August and into the Camp David summit of early September extremely important.
Yeah, yes, of course, yes.
And so the logic of this is that when you agreed this in principle with the President and Secretary of State Powell, and we've heard Vice President Cheney, at Camp David on the 8th of September, and then this was confirmed in the President's speech to the UN General Assembly a few days later. In a way, this was the critical moment in terms of our commitment to the United States on a common strategy. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. It's one of the critical moments, but it was also the critical moment at which the United States committed itself to the strategy which we had been arguing for. They had committed themselves to the United Nations, which was quite a hard call for many in the US administration who were root and branch opposed to the United Nations. And it meant that we were embarked on a strategy which, in my judgment, could easily have led to a peaceful resolution of this major dispute. And that was fundamental to the approach of the British government. Indeed.
Now, this had consequences for the whole way that the issue was going to be handled from this point on. Whatever the American administration may have thought about multiple arguments why regime change might have been a good idea, it now really had to be based on disarmament, weapons of mass destruction, and non-compliance with a succession of UN resolutions. This was the basis, really, for all the diplomacy of the next 6 months. Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair. Although, just to say that, of course, one of the reasons, if not the reason, why the United States had a policy objective of regime change going back to 1998 was because of the holdings of WMD, which the Iraqi regime had unquestionably had, its use of those, and at the judgment that we made that it not only had them, but was developing them, and they posed a very serious risk.
But there is also a question, which you discussed before the break with Sir Roderick, about the extent to which it was about how things could develop in the future, the possible leakage of these weapons to terrorist groups, the ability of Saddam Hussein, should containment fail, to be able to completely reconstitute his arsenals and so on. So there was always a forward-looking aspect to this problem as well as an immediate one.
Yes, I mean, yes, indeed, Sir Lawrence. And when we were talking about a threat, we were talking about a threat in the future. So I mean, we weren't just saying, as a matter of historical record, this is what they have done. I mean, that was the base for the case, which I tried to set out in my memorandum. But to say our overall judgment, taking account of all the information and perceptions we have, is that this man remains and is a serious threat now and for the future.